some of you will know that I recently had a birthday. If you were watching the plot along session that I was a guest, if you were watching the plot along, I'm gonna butcher this poor woman's name. It's by Solveig Bali. I can't say her name. I'm so sorry. I haven't watched enough videos to see how this name is pronounced. Hi everyone, it's me, Jess. Welcome back to the channel. I'm just here for a short little video talking about some books that I have acquired recently. I will start this video with a small caveat just to say we recently have heard about some cuts to funding for libraries that we need to resist. So I am not here to promote excessive consumption of books. I have picked up some books that I want to talk about to add to my library. I've purchased them all at independent bookstores. Indie Bookstore Day is coming up on the 26th of April here in Canada. Just to say that I generally make very good use of my library, and I really encourage you to use your libraries. The other thing I would say is if you are an audiobook lover, another idea, aside from Libby, is to use a service called Libro FM, which is a service where you can purchase audiobooks through independent bookstores. I will leave all the information for Libro FM in the description box below. I will also leave the information for the stores where I purchased these books in Montreal in the description box below, so you can check them out if you're ever in Montreal. I think that indie bookstores in particular need our support with all of the tariffs and everything that is going on. They're very worried about what their future holds. So the best thing we can do is to support them. Go visit an indie bookstore, go visit your library, use Libro FM if you've never heard of it, or if you hadn't thought about it, or it's crossed your mind and you've never signed up. This is not sponsored. This is just me sharing my best practices. The first book that I want to talk about is a book that, if you're watching the Women's Prize Plot Along show with Gemma from Gemma Books and Charlie from Charlie Brooks Reads, which I was a guest on with Camilla from Hasty Books, you will know that I've recently celebrated a birthday, and in that conversation, Camilla made a recommendation for a book. Well, we both made recommendations for books. I'll leave that video linked in the description box below, but I was out with a friend at an indie bookstore, and lo and behold, this book was sitting there on the shelf, really calling out for me. So this is M by Kim T, translated from the French by Sheila Fishman, and it was described, well, all of her books were described by Camilla as being really emotional explorations of the immigrant journey. And in particular, this is about immigrants from Vietnam after the fall of Saigon. Through the linked destinies of a family of characters, M takes its inspiration from historical events. Operation Baby Lift, which was a huge evacuation of children from Vietnam after the end of the war there. I'm really curious to read this. I think it will be really good. It comes highly recommended. So that was the first book that I picked up. I think I might hang on to it until we get to Women in Translation Month. And then the next book that I picked up was inspired by my book club's choice for last month. So we read Glyph by Ali Smith, and I have to say that I really enjoyed this. I'll be talking about it more in an upcoming video when I talk about my recent reads, probably in the next couple of weeks. But I got so excited about this book, and it takes as its starting point or its inspiration Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. So of course I had to pick up a copy because I don't actually own a copy of Brave New World. And I thought, geez, I should be reading these at the same time, which, and look, even Even the cover colors are kind of similar. Anyway, so yeah, I was very excited to find this at an indie bookstore in Old Montreal when I was there filming my vlog. I have a couple of the other books that I got during that expedition on my March break when I filmed my last reading vlog. But yes, I picked this up and I'm excited to reread it. I read it when I was in high school, but I think it'll be really interesting to read it in our current times. It's supposed to be far into the future, where the world controllers have created what they call an ideal society. It says the clever use of genetic engineering, brainwashing, and recreational sex and drugs has made all of its members happy customers. Our main character, Bernard Marx, seems to be alone in feeling discontent and harbors an unnatural desire for solitude and a perverse distaste for the pleasures of compulsory promiscuity. Wow, this is so relatable. And Bernard has an ill-defined longing to break free. So I think it's going to be really interesting to read this. I hope to read it maybe this summer. I don't think I'm going to get to it immediately because I have some reading to do for the BookTube prize, but I now have it in my hands. So that makes it much more likely that I will actually get to reading it. If you have anything to say about Brave New World, you can let me know in the comments below. No spoilers, please, because I really don't remember anything about the story. I just have a vague recollection of having read it when I was in high school. And then because I enjoyed Glyph so much, and then I got really excited at the prospect of discovering this new author, Ali Smith, who I'd never read before. And I went to the bookstore in search of How to Be Both, and instead, they didn't have it at this place, at this bookstore that I went to in Montreal. And instead, the bookseller said, well, this is my favorite Ali Smith book. And she handed me Public Library, which I'd not heard of before. I'm not sure if any of you have read this one, but I took the bookseller's recommendation. I always listen to booksellers. I find they often give me excellent, excellent recommendations, sometimes a little bit more obscure than what is the most popular book. So I was happy to pick this one up. And it's about the power of books, a set of short stories about the power of books in public libraries. And I thought, yes, I just have to pick this up. Seems like a wonderful collection. So I'm very excited about this. And I'm so happy that it was recommended to me, because I don't know if I would have even known about it if it hadn't been recommended to me by the bookseller. Maybe eventually I would have found it, but I'm really happy to have discovered it. And then a friend of mine gave me, I didn't know this was going to happen. And thank goodness that I couldn't find it in the bookstore, because my close friend gave me a copy of How to Be Both for my birthday. She had to go to a few different bookstores to get her hands on it, so it was really kind of her to pick it up for me. So How to Be Both is a novel about art. So I might save it for if there's going to be another art-based readathon in the fall. Maybe I'll save it for then, but I don't know if I can because I'm really excited about reading Ali Smith. It says it's about art's versatility. It's a fast-moving, genre-bending conversation between forms, times, truths, and fictions. I really fell in love with Ali Smith's writing. There were so many interesting observations in Glyph, and I will, as I said, talk more about that in an upcoming video. But I was very excited to get this one, and I feel like the possibility is that, you know, she could become a new preferred, or I don't like the word favorite, but she could become like a new beloved author for me. While I was in the same bookstore, I picked up a couple of other books. One of the books that I had heard about a couple of years ago and was very curious about was Facing Me on the Shelf, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to pick this one up. Whole by Hiroko Oyamada, which is translated by David Boyd. This is about a man whose wife, they moved to the countryside for his work, and his wife goes out into, I don't know if she goes out into a field or she goes out into the wilderness, and she falls into a hole. And that is the premise of the story. Apparently it's very unsettling. It's quite short. So I just heard all kinds of chatter about this book when it was making the rounds, and I've been curious to read it ever since. So I might hang on to this one until Women in Translation Month, but very happy that I picked it up. The other book that I picked up that day was a Jenny Offel book. A friend of mine just read something of hers. I'm not sure if she just read this one, Weather, or if she read The Department of Speculation, which is I think her other one. Look at how pretty this cover is. And she said that she really enjoyed it. I think that this is meant to be a bit strange. I hadn't heard of Jenny Offel before, or maybe I just vaguely heard of her. This is about Lizzie, who works in the library of a university where she was once a promising graduate student. Her side hustle is in answering the letters that come to the Hell and High Water, the doom-laden podcast hosted by her former mentor. At first, it suits her, this chance to practice her other calling as an unofficial shrink. But soon Lizzie finds herself struggling to strike the obligatory note of hope in her responses. The reassuring rhythms of her life as a wife and mother begin to falter as her obsession with disaster psychology and people preparing for the end of the world grows. So I really want to read something by Jenny Awful. I hope I'm saying her name right. She sounds really interesting to me. So I'm really glad I picked this one up, and I'm hoping I can fit it in somewhere in the next couple of months. And then I got really excited about the International Booker long list. So 2 of the books that I picked up when I was out and about shopping have made it to the International Booker Prize shortlist, which is very exciting. One of the books that I had also ordered when I ordered Praiseworthy, which our read-along, by the way, for Praiseworthy is starting today. So you could still join in, but I recommend you watch the announcement video to get more details on that. But when I ordered Praiseworthy, I also ordered a copy of Eurotrash because I don't know if it's just the title or the idea that captured my imagination, but I really wanted to read it, so I went ahead and ordered it, and quite uncharacteristically for me, I got it in hardcover, and I've been reading it. I'm almost at the end, and I've really enjoyed it, so I'll be talking about this one really shortly as well. This is a story about a man named Christian and his mother, and his mother is elderly, and she kind of is having maybe the chance for her last hurrah, in the sense that she's close to the end. She's suffering from dementia, and she's had an episode in a home, and she goes back to her apartment, and he regularly visits her there, and he goes back to see her and decides, maybe a bit spontaneously, to take her on a road trip, ostensibly across Europe. I mean, I'm almost at the end of the book and they haven't gone that far, but it's really an interesting dynamic between the 2 of them, and it's about a history that involves the grandfather who was in the SS, and so it's an interesting kind of coming to terms with that legacy. And I mean, I could say more about it, but I'll save it for when I actually do the review. But I've been really enjoying this one, and it was long listed. Unfortunately, I didn't make it to the short list, but I haven't read all of the books on the International Booker Prize this year, so I don't feel like I can really weigh in on whether that's a good or a bad thing. But this has been great, and I'm really glad that I ordered it sort of spontaneously like that. It was a good move on my part. It's been a good read so far. The other book that I picked up that has not gone through, but I've heard really fantastic things about, is actually a set of short stories, but I'd heard really, really good things about it. And I thought, you know, I've heard that it's a pretty stressful read. It could be a really good choice for Misery May, which is, I know, coming up because Scott and Gemma made their announcement videos. I'm really looking forward to Misery May, its 3rd iteration. I might read this one because the premise of Misery May this year is to read books from different parts of the world that are miserable. And this is a series of short stories about Mexican women. It's called Reservoir Bitches, and apparently they're very tough reads, the stories, but I think they'll be very compelling. So I did pick this up at Drawn and Quarterly, which is another of our independent bookstores and an independent publisher here in Montreal. Reservoir Bitches by Dalia de la Cerda, with 2 translators, Heather Cleary and Julia Sanchez. It's funny, it says on the back, "Life's a bitch. That's why you gotta rattle her cage even if she's foaming at the mouth." From the all-powerful daughter of a cartel boss to a victim of transfemicide, from a household of spinster seamstresses to a socialite who supports her politician husband by faking Indigenous roots, wow. These women spit on their own reduction and invent new ways to endure, telling their own stories in bold, unapologetic voices. It just sounds like it's right up my alley, so I'm going to keep this on the docket for Misery May. And then the 2 books that I picked up that have gone through, one of them is the first in a 6-volume series called On the Calculation of a Volume 1. And I think 2 is also out, but I don't think the other ones have been published yet. It's by Solveig Bali. I can't say her name. I'm so sorry. Translated by Barbara Haviland. This is about a woman who loses track of time. It says Tara Seltzer, the heroine of on the calculation of volume, has involuntarily stepped off the train of time. In her world, the 18th of November repeats itself endlessly. We meet her on her 121st 18th of November. And I don't know, it's an interesting concept. I'm not sure how this is going to work for 6 volumes or what. I mean, I definitely think there's a way of hooking people with the concept of this. So, I mean, I picked it up because I'm curious to see what it has to offer. I haven't heard all that much about it yet. We'll see if I end up buying all 6 volumes. Definitely an interesting concept. I guess the judges thought highly of it because it's gone through to the shortlist. And then the other one that I picked up, also in hardcover, Under the Eye of the Big Bird by Hiromi Kawakami. I actually read Strange Weather in Tokyo with Scott as a buddy read and really enjoyed it. So I've been really looking forward to this one, but it is a dystopian, and I've been reading quite a bit of dystopian literature lately. So I might take a little break from the dystopian and come back to it for Women in Translation Month, potentially, if I don't get to it before. Translated by Asa Yoneda. And it's about a near future where I think they're genetically creating in labs babies from cells of different animals. And so it's that kind of a futuristic type of story. It's going to be weird. I know, because Strange Weather in Tokyo was a pretty on the weird side, on the sort of, yeah, it was weird. It was kind of weird. So the next group of books are books that I picked up when the Carol Shields Prize long list was announced. They have not all made it to the short list, but some of them really captured my imagination, and they're books that are really off the radar. I just finished Pale Shadows, which I really enjoyed. I'm going to talk about it in an upcoming video. But I also picked up, and I think I talked about this in an earlier video, I picked up Cicada Summer by Erica McKean. She's a Canadian writer from BC. And this is set in the summer of 2020 when a heat wave brings in like a swarm of cicadas. I think this story is mostly about grief because it says that Husha is mourning the recent death of her mother while quarantining with her ailing grandfather Arthur at his lakeside cabin in remote Ontario. Husha discovers a strange book when she's cleaning out her mother's house. And they begin to read it, and they learn that her mother's last missive was a short story collection. And I think it's about the discovery of this book and their relationships. Sounds like it could be a really good book to read in the summer, unless you're worried about bugs. You don't like cicadas. I actually really don't like cicadas. I don't like the noise they make. Really don't like it. Some people love that electric noise that they make. I hate it. So yeah, I don't know. I might find this book, it might be very affecting for me to read this book. We'll see. Then I was really curious about the hearing test when I heard about it, and it was listed on the Carol Shields Prize. It sounds really good. It's about hearing loss, about a woman who's suffering from hearing loss. She's an artist in her late 20s. And she wakens, speaking of cicada noises, she wakens with a drone in her right ear. And then she's diagnosed with sudden deafness. And she doesn't know what the cause is. It's all about how hearing loss is very isolating. She becomes really attuned to other cues. So she's living in New York City, in a New York City apartment with her dog. And I think it's just about how she ends up dealing with this diagnosis. Sounds really good. It's a topic that you don't often hear covered or explored in stories. So I actually went and asked them to order this one for me because I'm really curious to read it. And I think I'll be moving it up my TBR because I think it sounds really interesting. And I also picked up a copy of River East, River West because I didn't have a copy. This, of course, has gone through to the shortlist for the Carol Shields Prize, and it was listed on the Women's Prize last year, and I've heard really amazing things about it. Aube Ray Lescure, the author, is a French-Chinese-American writer who grew up between Shanghai and northern China and the south of France, and this is a story that is set in Shanghai in 2007, and it goes back and forth from that time period to the past in 1985. And so it takes these two different points of view. A newlywed man in 1985 who's a shipping clerk and a 14-year-old Alva who in 2007 is plotting her escape to go to America. So I think it's going to be also very interesting. I don't know that many people who have read it. I mean, obviously the regular booktubers who were reading for the Women's Prize last year did read it and talk about it, but I never got a chance to, so I'm excited to read this one as well. And then the last two books in my little book haul, one which is on my TBR for this month because it is one of my picks for the Books for Bowel Cancer, which is hosted by Charlie over at Charlie Brooke Reads, is Universality, written by Natasha Brown. This is an intriguingly short novel about someone who gets assaulted and killed with a gold bar at a club, and the journalist who goes to write about it. I'm really interested in her writing. Her other book, Assembly, I loved. So I'm disappointed that she didn't make any of the prizes, which I've said before, but very excited, and so excited about this book that I picked it up in hard copy. And then also Nesting by Roshan O'Donnell, which I haven't gotten to yet, but I picked it up because of the Women's Prize and because it's an Irish story about a woman who escapes a marriage that is abusive. She leaves and raises her daughter on her own. So I think this is also kind of my cup of tea. I was hoping to get to Nesting actually sooner than I have, but I just have had too much on my plate. So hopefully I will get to it soon. I mean, these are the books that I've purchased. Will I get to them soon? Some of them are really exciting and I would like to read them soon. And then on the other hand, I looked at my classics TBR for the year and realized that I haven't even made a dent in it. So we shall see what actually gets read in the next couple of months. But it's pretty exciting to have this stack of books for the spring going into the summer. I'm really happy with the purchases that I've made and I haven't even read them yet. So there you have it. Please go out and get a book from the library, and also maybe go treat yourself to a book at an independent bookstore, and hopefully one that's printed by a smaller press if you can. They tend to be the ones that need our support the most. Thank you so much everyone for watching. Thank you so much to those of you who've purchased merch from my Etsy store. Thank you so much for being patient with me while I get that merch out to you. And I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye for now. If I'm saying her name correctly. And actually it's translated from French by... It's actually translated from the French by... Nola. It's actually translated from French by... Nola, you're gonna knock over my... You're gonna knock over my stand. Don't burn it. It's translated from the French by... It's translated... Let's try this like for the millionth time. It's translated from the French by...